Hi guys, this is Meg from Farmgirl Flowers, and today we're in the Farmgirl warehouse, and I'm going to be showing you how to style 6 stems of rose lilies and 6 stems of pink peonies. Alright, so before we begin, you're going to need a few things. You'll want a sharp pair of clippers. If you don't have clippers, scissors is fine. You'll want a vase for all of your flowers. I think this one's probably about the right height and width for the amount of stems that I have. Just make sure that whatever you have at home is going to work with the amount of stems that you have. And you'll want some fresh water. So you can go ahead and fill up your vase with water. I'd say about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way full is usually good. And then you're going to go ahead and add your flower food that came with your flowers. Perfect. All right, and then before we add these all to our vase, we're gonna have to do some processing because lilies and peonies both come with a lot of leaves on them. So as you'll see, this is the peony leaves. There's a lot of foliage on here, but we don't really want all of that because we don't want any leaves in our water. The leaves can introduce bacteria into the water, and we wanna keep bacteria growth to a minimum, so we're just gonna go ahead and remove most of the leaves off of these peonies. If when your peonies arrive, you notice that the leaves are looking a little bit sad and droopy, maybe not super fresh, that's okay. It's actually pretty normal for peony leaves to get a little bit crinkly. If you trim your peonies and put them in water, those leaves should perk back up. So it's not a sign that your peony is dying or unhealthy. It's just that it's a little bit dehydrated. So go ahead and give it a fresh chop, give it some water, and it should perk right back up. The lilies are gonna come and have quite a few leaves on them too. It's really easy to just pull those right off. All of these leaves on the bottom you'll wanna take off because those are all gonna fall below the water line. Both of these flower varieties are really easy to process. They don't have thorns or anything that's gonna really prick you or poke you, so they're easy. Once we're all processed and ready to go, you're ready to start designing. And I think what I'm gonna do is actually start by designing this in my hand, and I'm going to show you a few really good tips for how to do that. We don't have too many stems today, so it shouldn't be hard for anybody to hold this in your hand at home. And this is just a really good way if you are working with lilies or any sort of flowers that are really big and have a lot of blooms on one stem. This is a great way to sort of look at the structure of your arrangement before you commit to cutting it and putting it in your vase. So you'll see that what I've started by doing is crisscrossing these 2 stems of lilies in a big X like this. And I'm kind of using this like lobster claw motion of my hand to hold them. So my 4 fingers are in the back, and then I've got my thumb on the front of the stems holding it in place. And I'm gonna add another one to the middle, or sort of not quite the middle, a little off center, and maybe a little taller than the other 2. And then I'm gonna go ahead and start layering in my peonies. And I'm kind of choosing my biggest, most open peonies and putting those in a space that there's no lilies. In between adding peonies, I'm gonna go ahead and add a couple more stems of lilies. And the lilies and peonies are both such large-headed flowers, they're really gonna take up the space pretty quickly. So you're not gonna have to do that much to fill in the space between. I'm gonna maybe add a peony to the back. And don't forget to also be sort of staggering the flowers as you go. So you'll want some to be taller and some to be shorter. And this is just gonna make sure that you get to see all of the flowers clearly once they're in your arrangement. And it gives it more visual interest and more dimension. As you can see, I'm still crisscrossing my stems. So every time I add a stem, I'm kind of putting it in an X shape, you'll see. And this is kind of making this wide shape rather than having them all bunched together. I still have 2 peonies here and another rose lily. And I think what I'm gonna do is trim these and add them to my vase, and then see any spots that are missing something, I'll have these flowers to add in. I'm just kind of gonna hold this against my vase and eyeball how short I wanna cut the stems. I definitely would recommend measuring against your vase before you cut your stems. Looking at this, my stems are still a little bit too long for my vase, so I'm just gonna go ahead and squeeze them together and chop off about another inch or so. measure it against my vase. That looks pretty good. I'm just gonna go ahead and drop these into my vase and kind of make any first adjustments that you can see. If any of your stems really need to be trimmed shorter, you can go ahead and do that. Adjust things a little bit. With lilies and peonies, these are both flowers that are really gonna open up huge. So if you have some negative space between your stems, that's totally okay, and actually a good thing because it's gonna give your flowers more room to breathe and more room to bloom. I still have a couple of extra stems here, which I'm gonna add into any places that look like they need something or missing something. It's so fast to make this arrangement because the lilies just have so much structure to them. They have, you know, foliage and blooms, and they're just a great flower that's gonna add sort of structure and also these beautiful flowers to your arrangement. So this is a great arrangement for a beginner designer because it's just, with the lilies and the peonies both being such big flowers, it's really gonna be easy to make this look beautiful. So I'm gonna go ahead and add this last lily to the back here. And I'm gonna add in my last two peonies, and I'm kind of gonna leave this one tall in the back here and then put this one a little shorter. All right, and you can see that I actually have left a lot of space between the blooms here. And the reason for that is I know they're gonna open really huge, so I want there to be some open space for things to breathe. But I think that's looking really good. Make any last adjustments you need to make. You can kind of twist things around so that they're sort of facing a different direction. And make sure to turn your vase around so that you can see what it looks like from all angles. Make sure you haven't missed any spots. But I think this looks pretty good. Once you're happy with how your arrangement looks, you're gonna wanna find a place for it in your home that's out of direct sunlight and away from any direct heat source. And this will ensure that your flowers stay looking at their freshest for the longest time possible. You're also gonna wanna change the water with your flowers every day. This will help ensure that they stay fresh. So you're gonna do that by go ahead and lift the flowers out of the vase. You'll want to get rid of the old water. You can wipe out the inside of the vase if there's any petals or debris or leaves in there. Put fresh water inside. You can give your stems a fresh cut. This will help them sort of rehydrate. So maybe just 1/4 to 1/2 inch. Give them a little trim. And then you're gonna go ahead and put your stems back in and do any sort of rearranging if anything's moved around. Also, if any of your lilies are sort of past the point in their life cycle, they're way open, you know, they're past their prime, you can go ahead and remove those heads, just trim them off here at the base of the stem. And then that'll sort of give all of the energy to these other buds that are yet to bloom. So these will continue to open up and bloom through the rest of the week. So if you have any on your stems that are, you know, a little past their prime, you can just go ahead and remove those. A couple of additional really important things to know about lilies are that they are very highly toxic to pets, cats, dogs, so keep everybody safe by placing your arrangement somewhere where you know that your cat or dog can't reach it. This has been Meg for Farmgirl Flowers, showing you how to style 6 stems of peonies and 6 stems of rose lilies. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.